that time of the week again.
Oh, my God.
You hung out.
Yeah.
You partied in the A-Town.
I wouldn't say we partied. We enjoyed some football.
Some
you know
beer.
What I'm saying?
Some popcorn.
Everything that comes with the experience of the NFL game day.
Yeah, Matt and I we talked to Dr. A on Monday when you weren't here.
Yeah.
And basically Dr. A said you just ravaged his box. And
Oh,
took all
stop
the,
it.
He took all the food.
He's like, you put stuff in your jacket.
He took all the food.
You said you went to his hotel and took towels.
No, I did not do that.
And just there's no food left in the box after you were done.
I'm sure Dr. A didn't say that.
Well, you can ask him right now. He joins the program. Doc, what's going on? Do we have Dr. A?
Dr. A is speechless.
He's filling the box up with food.
I know. Dr. A's like, hold on 1 second. I got to replace everything that Corey
He's
took.
like, Corey,
Nah.
hurry up and buy.
Dr. A, Dr.
Tell
A, are
Doc
you
that
there,
Corey
sir?
does it at the restaurant, too.
What's going on, Doc?
I'm good, guys. Ready to talk some injuries. We've got some, some chronic ones that we've got to talk about. Names that continue to keep popping up, week after week. A lot of people want to know about, Devontae Freeman. I mean, Corey, you and I talked about that at the game. You remember?
Yeah, no doubt, Doctor.
He doesn't remember.
I remember. Come on now. I had something to do after. I had something to do after the game, so I was sober.
Were you concussed?
No, I was not. I was good to go.
He was full.
But Doc, you had mentioned that remember when he had the one in training camp? If I'm not mistaken, he had one later in the maybe it's in the mid to part of the late last season. So he's had something like 3 in like maybe the past 12 to 14 months. Do you think he should be on the injured reserve?
Yeah, I think time will tell, with these neurological type of injuries, especially concussions, the healing sort of recovery pattern is very, very different for different people. One thing's for sure is that the likelihood of him having a 4th concussion is very, very high. And that's why, especially if he hasn't recovered from the 3rd concussion yet, that's why we don't know what the timetable for Devontae Freeman's going to be, but they won't know until he actually completely clears concussion protocol and then actually has some time to go through some secondary testing to make sure that he has really completely cleared. And there's no secondary signs of other things associated with head injuries, neurological symptoms, associated with upper extremity or lower extremity, as well as memory. And, they have to now go through all of that because of the multiple concussions he had. So I'm not going to say injured reserve yet. However, it is a possibility. He's always been at high injury risk on our board even before the season started. And it's playing sort of true, unfortunately, now. I mean, these things, especially for running backs, concussions are very, very difficult to control because they are the ones that are getting hit most often when they have the ball.
All right. What about Phillip Rivers? This guy never misses a game, Doc. But we can't assume anything when he's going through the concussion protocol, even though he was at practice yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, this was something that was no one really actually saw the play. It was on, I think, a tackle in the first quarter. Didn't really hit the ground hard. One of these things is it could be a very, very mild concussion, likely past protocol easily. He's on his road to recovery in a week. I think he is going to clear. It's a grade 1 right now, but it's probably going to improve and completely be better. He's at elevated injury risk at this moment, but he's going to be projected to be back up into close to peak health and again at low injury risk to start the game most likely. So I think this is an extremely mild concussion. He's never had a concussion before, which is incredible for a quarterback for as many seasons as he's played. And he's not missed a game in his last 12 seasons, which is, he's sort of like an Iron Man when it comes to injuries. I fully expect him to be back on the field, very close to low injury risk and peak health.
Hey, Doc, how's it going this morning? Let's head over to Baltimore. Danny Woodhead. Is he returning this weekend? The long-awaited Danny Woodhead return.
So I don't know if he's going to return this week, but I do know that he shouldn't. He had a grade 4 hamstring injury, which normally takes a 30-week recovery, but he improved significantly from a 4 to a 2 in this time period, and that was about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So the grade 2 hamstring is a 5-week, optimum recovery time, and that happened about 2 to 3 weeks ago. See, he is about 2 weeks away, so I definitely think he should come back in about maybe week 13, possibly week 12, but definitely week 13. If he comes back this week, I think he's coming back a little bit too soon. So, if he does come and fantasy owners decide to start him, I would have some wide receiver, ready to go, especially right before the game if he's declared inactive.
Talking to Dr. A, inside injuries, and we mentioned this, of course, on Monday with you, Matt and I did. But when it came to Ty Montgomery and Jamal Williams, I recommended to everybody listening and watching that, hey, I'm picking up Jamal Williams. Ty Montgomery has his rib injury, and you talked about on Monday with Matt and I about, listen, he may not even crack any more ribs, and maybe cartilage issues inside the chest, and that's even more painful. So Mike McCarthy, the head coach of Green Bay, then comes out and is like, we think Ty Montgomery may play as soon as this Sunday. Is this a pain tolerance issue with Ty Montgomery? What is the latest there?
Yeah, see, there's a big difference between playing and then playing effectively. And so, he could definitely play. I mean, he could play in the last game, except the problem is that, if he does have pain and it flares up in game, it's incredibly difficult to control that pain. With costochondritis and inflammation of the cartilage and, a guy who's had multiple rib fractures previously, it's very, very difficult to play. So, as you can see, you can start the game, you can play the game, but you may play 4 snaps and that's it. And, that's not anything good for the team or good for fantasy owners. And so, I'm very, very, negative, unfortunately, on Ty Montgomery. If he does play in this game, I don't think he'll be as effective unless he's extremely lucky of not getting hit in the exact spot, on his chest. But obviously that is something that is not going to happen. I think he is at significantly high risk. Right now he's at elevated at injury risk at 24%, and he's below average at this current time. His previous metrics were elevated injury risk and above average, but this time I think he'll stay below average and elevated injury risk at 24%. So, I don't think he'll be as effective and perform that well in the game. Because of that, you're right. That pain threshold is very difficult to control in game.
Doc, let me hop in right here. I want to talk to you. I was telling Greg and before the break that I think that Jordan Reed might retire after this season. You look at the multiple concussions, the staying banged up with the back. You got the hamstring. He's more than likely going to need foot surgery in the offseason. This guy is beat up, Dr. A.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about him, and we've pretty much talked about him every week for the last 2 years. And but seriously, no. I mean, This is how injured he is. It's amazing. I don't know how he can continue to come back and maintain any type of effectiveness. Unfortunately, he was high injury risk before the season started. He was one of these target guys where, we knew that he was going to have multiple injuries. And even if he played through these injuries, again, it's really the effectiveness, for fantasy owners, like I said, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he starts in the game and is not effective, or if he doesn't play in the game and he's on your roster because they're not generating points for fantasy owners. And so high injury risk 33%, he's below average at 54%. This hamstring injury is grade 2 right now. He still needs 3 more weeks to recover. So if he does play anytime sooner, again, I don't know if you can get into a higher injury risk than 33%. There is no other category. It'll remain high injury risk.
What about Dez Bryant, Doc? Seems like, they continue to hold him out of practice early and midweek.
Yeah, I mean, Corey and I talked about this at the game on Sunday where we were watching Dez, and he was not in a lot of snaps. I mean, he started off the game with a bang, because in the beginning, it's very, very sort of, you don't really feel the impact of this grade 2 ankle sprain. But then as the game went on, you could see he was just not in a lot of snaps, and then he was coming back. He And then he was not that effective. I believe he just had 3 receptions and 39 yards. And, again, this is the problem with ankle injuries and wide receivers. Got to get them to heal, because you could play really well in the first quarter, and then second quarter and the second half, it starts to go downhill. And so he's at high injury risk right now at 26%. He was high injury risk before the last game, and he was before the season started on our book. So he needs 2 weeks. He was at a 2, now he's at a 1. He's improving at least. He still needs 2 weeks. If he comes back in 2 weeks, he'll move into the above average category, and that's when he could probably do a lot more for fantasy owners.
Hey, Doc, let's end it on a high note, some positivity here. Zach Ertz, he's going to be good to go this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he was a grade 3. Now he was then a grade 2. Now a grade 1. So he's improving nicely. He's at elevated right now, but right on the border of low injury risk. So by game time, we're projecting him to be at low injury risk, and he's above average, but he'll be very, very close to peak health. Very, very good news that he has rested, and then he's practicing this week, and they've been limiting him, so that's a really good sign. So we expect him to be at low injury risk at game time.
There you go, Dr. A. Inside injuries we hear from each and every week. The next time you can hear from him on our airwaves, Line Up Lock Live on Sunday morning. You are not going to want to miss what Doc has to say as we go up to game time. He's the best. We appreciate the time as always. Doctor, thank you so much.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
We appreciate it. All right, there you go. Gentlemen, when we come back, we're going to take a look at Thursday night football between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. We got a lot going on tonight, and Matt, you brought some interesting points earlier when it came to Ben Roethlisberger and Marcus Mariota in that conversation. I think it's one we need to have. Corey, you brought Rashard Matthews a little bit earlier. That's a conversation we need to have. And Scott, you've been excited all morning long about Juju Smith-Schuster and Corey Davis, both rookie wide receivers, hitting the field tonight. All 3 of those things we're going to break down in the next 10 minutes. That comes your way when we come back here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network.